this relationship, this is going to be one of the most pivotal videos that you've ever watched. The reason being is that I was surprised when I saw this post and I had to react to it. Now, this post was written by a woman and she's got so much self awareness that she was able to detail how she's moved from discovering that she was in a sexless relationship to the point that she's going to accept it. Now, within our community, we don't teach acceptance. And I think the only time I've taught people, or at least helped people to accept it, is when their partner is clearly asexual, that sex is not something that they want to be part of. So they don't want anything to do with sex. Again, that you have to accept it. Now it's just a choice of you. You stay because you're willing to accept it, or you actually say, you know what, they can love you from a distance. I need that connection. So again, there's a few times that that's happened, and then the second one is that if that person has become lesbian or they've decided that they don't want to do anything with sex with you. So again, that's the time when you accept it and just move on at that point. So the rest of the time we assume that your partner has given you evidence that she likes to have sex, but there's some sort of sexual discomfort that has come into your relationship. So with that in mind, I like how this lady has really detailed the sort of stages that she's gone through in order to accept it. I think the only thing that we're going to change, like I said, is the acceptance. What do you do when you recognize this, or at least if you find yourself at this fifth stage? So she goes on here to say the first stage is denial, and then she talks about how you've been having sex and then all of a sudden there's this sudden shift. And usually when this sudden shift happens, we've talked about it in a different video where we talk about the honeymoon period, that the honeymoon period has got two drivers into how that pushes you within to the relationship. And those drivers are the fear of being alone, because we are community-based mammals, and then also the fear, also the push for reproduction. So those things get you into a relationship, and once you get into that relationship, underneath all of that is your conditioning, which is then your parent, how you were raised, and how you're raised, and the insecurities that you'd have picked up along the way, and those things start coming up to the fore, and those are the things that start actually causing sexual discomfort in many relationships, because again, it's these uncommunicated expectations end up sort of rearing their ugly head, which then starts causing issues within the relationship. So we don't recognize it, and again, because they are uncommunicated expectations, we tend to not talk about them, and then we focus on just the actual very act of sex, and then all of a sudden we find ourselves really going further and further deeper into that sexless relationship. So initially you're in denial because, like, you know what, we used to have lots of sex before, and you don't really recognize the change, like what has changed, what is different. So again, you sort of go through this place where you're just in denial, like, I know it's going to get better, I know it's going to be it's going to be able to change, and then nothing ever changes, which becomes a very difficult thing to really wrap your head around, because I think one of the worst things that happens is when that person is telling you that they love you, but at the same time they're not willing to connect with you, which is completely very difficult to understand. Then you get into the second stage, which is talks about bargaining. So she talks about, losing baby weight, starting to dress sexy again, and again, there's the equivalent for that for men. Yet men will think about, okay, maybe I've put on weight, maybe let me do something about that. They'll think about, maybe I should dress better sometimes. Sometimes guys will then start doing more house chores around the house, trying to impress or at least score points. They'll go for more date nights. They'll do more around the house in order to try and impress her, in order to then prove themselves, or at least prove to her that I'm somebody worth having sex with. And this again never changes anything, because it's quite transactional. It doesn't follow the principles of attraction or seduction. So the thing that's causing sexual discomfort will become even more with this, because again, her not doing her bit in terms of the chores, and you taking most of the chores, will cause a weird dynamic where it can amplify her own anxiety, her own insecurities, and again, that has got a potential to make things worse, which in many cases it does, because all of a sudden you have resentment because you feel entitled because you've been doing all of this work and you're not being recognized for it. So the transactional side of things pushes you into then that depression, that okay, look at which is that stage, which is depression, which is, look, I've been doing all of these things and all of a sudden you're not even considering all of these things that I've done. And again, it pushes you into that I've given you everything I can in this sense. I've given you everything that I can possibly give you to show you that I'm your sexual partner, I'm a partner that loves you and so on, but yet you're still not meeting me there. So you end up falling into this depression where you've tried every single thing, but you can't find that place where you can bring anything back, or at least you can see end in sight for this relationship. And again, you start, this is where most guys fear, get a lot of regret of picking this partner, and most likely start thinking about other partners. In fact, this is probably where most people cheat. This is the place where most people cheat, because now all of a sudden they're in this depressive state, and if anyone gives them any attention that they're lacking within the relationship, this is where they're the most vulnerable and the most weak. And at this point, they are still internalizing the whole situation. So that, okay, this whole situation is happening to me. What have I done wrong? What's going on? You know, it's this internal thing. So if anybody then comes in and gives them a lifeline, then the chances are this is where most people cheat. And I think when it comes to this point, when they do get depressed, when the depression becomes very difficult to bear, they then start lashing out. Now, this is where you get into anger, where it's becomes when that anything that they do makes you angry, even when it's, and you, not just what they do, but even when they do something nice for you, you see it as though there's an ulterior motive to hurt you, and you can't see anything beyond your resentment and anger. So again, that's the fourth stage, where you're just angry, not just at her but around the house. You hate being inside the house. So again, it becomes very, very difficult to interact and continue building on your family, because you're just causing a lot of friction. There's a lot of friction within your relationship based off of the fact that there's a lot of resentment, and a lot of it, just to step back on the depression side of things, is that when you are depressed, one of the things that makes you depressed is that you start feeling like a roommate, and sometimes you might actually feel like just a paycheck, and that really, really removes any fulfillment that you're having in anything else. And again, this is where the depression comes. Now, the reason why I went back there is because when you lack fulfillment in anything, the flip side of fulfillment is anger, and you be like, oh God, I'm frustrated because I'm not getting this one thing that's going to be fulfilling. So again, this is a very good way of looking at getting to a place of acceptance. But we don't talk about acceptance. If you've gone through the stages, hopefully if you're going through the stages and we interact, this is how I would want you to approach, is that you don't talk about sex, you don't initiate sex. In fact, I would go to the point where then you need to start rebuilding your self-worth. And a lot of times, for many guys, that we've suggested is doing something that is extremely out of your comfort zone, you know, where you can interact with people. So a few of the guys, we've taken them Latin dancing. So if they've never been able to dance, if they've been very scared of dancing, go Latin dancing, be around people that are sexy, the people that are learning how to do some of that dancing. That is a very good way of starting to be active, but also learning something that is beyond your skill, that is going to put you in a chasm where you feel like you're really bad, but it starts building your confidence because you're learning this skill. So again, you doing so, yeah, it's got other stuff that will happen, because again, if your partner is not available sexually and then you're dancing with this really hot she might not even know that. Generally, you'll be meeting people that are already got partners and that just enjoy dancing. They don't want anything more than dancing. But in her mind, she's going to think that you're cheating on her, or whatever reason, she will feel sexual competition, which then forces her to snap out of what she's funk. Because I mean, it's not a big deal. You're just learning how to dance. It's something that you're looking to dance. Some guys are not comfortable with doing that because maybe their partners are fractured. Maybe they've cheated before. So again, it can cause a bit of commotion. So they're not prepared to do so. I would say join an MMA gym, do some boxing, do some Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. This is a very good way of interacting with people that have got one goal, which is to get better, but also it gets you to a place where you start building confidence as you build your skill within that. And it's very important to do so. And when you do so, all of these teach you more about yourself in terms of you being pretty rubbish at this thing when you start. And then as you get better, you see that your self-worth and your confidence starts growing. But more importantly, when you feel confident about yourself, it changes how you behave when you're inside the household. And when you do, she starts seeing that change and she starts becoming attracted to you again. So this is a difference, because most people accept and just say, you know what, I've got depression and anger and so on. I'm just going to accept that this is the rest of my life. And that acceptance has got terrible consequences for the rest, because it means that if you're 40 years old, it means for the next 30 years you're choosing to live life of misery. If I went through the process of doing Latin dancing, for example, or MMA, or doing some sort of thing to build my self-confidence, it's going to change my state in how I view the relationship. And what tends to happen is that if the relationship is painful and you're failing to figure out a way of changing it, and it's not changing, then it also gives you enough self-worth to be able to leave that situation as well. Because a lot of guys that get stuck and then just don't feel any confidence to make a move, so they just sort of sit there. But when you're doing fighting, for example, it forces you to really be in a very difficult situation and understand that you can still move in a difficult situation. And I know it sounds crazy, but after helping 239 men, this works. It's a formula that works. So again, instead of acceptance, you don't accept. You actually start making moves. The only thing that's going to change emotion is motion, and that's one thing that I've been always saying to some of the guys, that when you start moving, and again, Latin dancing, doing some sort of fighting or learning some fighting skill, all of these are really good ones. The other one that is, if you're not prepared to do fighting or dancing, is improv class or comedy class, again, acting class. All of these are really good because you get to learn the art of communication, body language, voice tonality. So all of these things that are really important that you can actually learn as well, which again, all powerful, but really stretches you as a person. Again, when you now come and interact within your household, you know how to interact in a different way. So there's different ways you can go around this, and all of these are extremely powerful ways of if you find yourself on stage 5, this is how I would then deploy some of these things in order to change my relationship. So if you want to learn more on how to change your sexless relationship, I want you to go and type in the link, go to the link where you can get a free training. I'll be giving you 3 tips on how to change your sexless relationship. And if you like these types of videos, right, please subscribe. And also, if you've got any questions, type it in the comments and I'll be able to make some videos around those questions. So thank you very much, guys. I'll be seeing you guys soon. Take care.